My brother graduated on a Thursday. I know that because I had taken the day off work. Not that he knew that. Not that he'd asked me to come. I found out about the ceremony the way I found out about most things in my family, through a text my mom sent to the group chat that I was technically still in, even though no one had spoken to me directly in 11 days. Graduation lunch Sunday at Rosewood Grill, 1 p.m., dress nice. That was it. No, hope you can make it. No, we'd love to have you there. Just the time, the place, the dress code. The same information you'd send to a coworker you were obligated to invite. I stared at that message for a long time. My brother, let's call him what he is, my younger brother, was graduating with a degree in business administration from a state university in Ohio. He was 22 years old. He had done it in 4 years, which everyone in the family treated like some extraordinary achievement. The kind of thing that gets brought up at every holiday table until someone dies. What nobody brought up, what nobody in that group chat seemed to remember or care to acknowledge, was that I had paid for it. Not metaphorically, not in some supportive older sister way where I cheered him on and bought him a laptop. I mean, I had transferred money into his account every single month for 4 years. Tuition, housing, his meal plan, his textbooks. The parking pass he complained was too expensive. I'd pay for the cap and gown he was going to wear on Sunday. I had paid for the diploma he was going to hang on his wall. I was 29 years old, and I worked as a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm in Columbus. I was good at my job. I made decent money. Not life-changing money, but enough. Enough to cover my own rent, my own student loans from the community college I'd attended while working full-time, and enough left over each month to send to my brother so he could have the traditional college experience I never got. I had never told him directly. That was my first mistake, and I know that now. I had set it up through my mom when he was 18. I'd called her and said I wanted to help, and she had cried on the phone. Said I was the most generous person she'd ever raised. Said she didn't know what the family would do without me. I told her to keep it between us. I didn't want my brother to feel indebted to me. I wanted him to just go. Go have the 4 years I didn't have. Study, make friends, do stupid things, figure out who he was. I thought that was love. I thought that was the right thing to do. For 4 years, I watched him post on Instagram. Parties, football games, spring break in Florida. A ski trip his junior year that I definitely could not afford myself. I liked the photos. I sent him birthday money on top of the monthly transfers. I asked my mom how he was doing, and she always said, fine, great, thriving. She never once said, he knows and he's grateful. Because he didn't know. Or if he did, he never acknowledged it. Not a single text. Not a phone call. Nothing. I told myself that was okay. I told myself the point wasn't recognition. I had gotten very good at telling myself things that weren't true. The morning of the graduation lunch, I spent 40 minutes getting ready. I wore a green wrap dress I'd bought the previous spring and never had an occasion for. I did my hair. I checked myself in the mirror 3 times, which is 2 more times than I usually do, because I needed to feel like I looked like someone who belonged there. I drove 40 minutes to Rosewood Grill. It's the kind of restaurant that has white tablecloths and a separate bread menu, and where the valet acts faintly surprised when you tip them in cash. My family had never eaten there before. Not once. Not in my entire childhood. I remember thinking, as I handed over my keys, that someone must have come into some money. The hostess led me through the restaurant toward the private dining room in the back. I could hear them before I could see them. Laughter, the clink of glasses, someone telling a story that was clearly very funny to everyone listening. My mom's laugh. My aunt's louder one. The particular volume of a family that is happy and full and does not feel like anything is missing. I pushed open the door. It went quiet in the specific way that rooms go quiet when someone unexpected walks in. Not silent. The background noise of the restaurant kept going, but the table went still. My mom looked up. My aunt. My brother's girlfriend, Simone, who I had met exactly twice. My dad. My brother. My brother looked at me like I was a stranger. Not surprised. Not guilty. Just blank. Like he was scanning his memory for who I was and coming up slightly short. Hey, I said, because I didn't know what else to say. Congratulations. My dad was the one who spoke. He had this way of using a very calm, very measured voice when he was about to say something that would cut you open, like the quietness made it more reasonable. He looked at me from across the table and said, "We weren't expecting you." I laughed a little. "I got the text. From the group chat." That was. He glanced at my mom. "That was more of a general update. We didn't think you'd actually come." I looked at my mom. She was looking at the tablecloth. "Okay," I said slowly. "Well, I'm here. My brother and I will never forget this. I will carry this moment for the rest of my life." My brother leaned back in his chair and said in a perfectly even tone, "This is kind of a family thing." I heard someone make a small sound. Maybe it was me. "I'm your sister," I said. "I know." He shrugged. One shoulder, casual, like we were discussing whether to add guacamole. It's been a long day. We've got a lot of people here. It's not really a good time." I counted the people at the table. 11. I knew 8 of them. The other 3 were his college friends who were looking at their phones or at the breadbasket with intense concentration. "There's an empty chair," I said. My dad stood up then. He wasn't a large man, but he carried himself in a way that took up space. He came around the table toward me gently, the way you move toward someone you're about to redirect. "Sweetheart, why don't we step outside for just a minute?" "I don't want to step outside. I want to sit down." "This isn't the right moment." "It's his graduation lunch. When is the right moment?" My dad lowered his voice to that register he used when he wanted you to feel like you were embarrassing yourself. "Your brother worked very hard to get here. Today is his day. This celebration is about him and what he accomplished. On his own, by himself, with his own effort. And I think you need to respect that. On his own. By himself. With his own effort." I looked past my dad at my brother, who was now having a quiet conversation with Simone, like I wasn't standing 10 feet away from him. At my mom, who had picked up her water glass and was holding it with both hands like it was the most interesting object in the room. At my aunt, who at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Something happened in my chest. Not quite anger. It was more like the moment when you're balancing something heavy and your arms finally give out. The thing drops. You stop trying to hold it. "He worked hard," I said, still looking at my brother. "He did," my dad said warmly, like we were agreeing. "Okay." I nodded very slowly. "Okay, I'll go." My dad's shoulders relaxed, slightly with relief. "I just want to say one thing first." I raised my voice just enough that my brother would have had to actively try not to hear me. "I want to say congratulations. I hope the degree is worth what it cost." I turned around and walked back through the restaurant. The hostess near the front looked at me with the careful non-expression of someone who has seen this before. I handed my ticket to the valet. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 6 minutes. I know because I watched the clock. And then I picked up my phone. I had set up the automatic transfers 2 months into his freshman year when the tuition bills started coming in. They ran through my bank's payment portal, linked to my savings account, scheduled on the 1st of every month. I had not looked at them in years. I had just let them run, the way you let a subscription run that you've forgotten about, except this one cost me between $3,000 and $4,000 a month depending on the semester. I canceled them. All of them. Every scheduled transfer, every linked payment, every automatic bill that had my routing number attached to it. 4 years of financial infrastructure, dismantled in about 9 minutes in a parking lot on a Sunday afternoon. Then I opened my email and sent a single message to my brother's university financial aid office. I explained that I had been making voluntary tuition contributions on behalf of a student. I included his student ID number, which I still had saved from the original paperwork, and that those contributions had ended as of today. I asked them to confirm receipt. Then I drove home. My phone started ringing at 3:37 p.m. I know because I was watching a baking competition on TV and I had just paused it. It was my mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 3:75. Voicemail. My dad at 3:58. Voicemail. My brother at 4:03. The first time he had called me in 8 months. I stared at his name on the screen for a long moment, then put the phone face down on the couch cushion. By 5:30 I had 17 missed calls across the 3 of them. I ordered Thai food and ate it on my couch and watched 2 more episodes of the baking show. The contestants were making croissants. It was very soothing. At 6:14, my mom left a voicemail that I did listen to. She was crying. She said she didn't understand what had happened, that the restaurant was saying a large payment had been reversed, that she had tried to use her card and it had been declined, that she didn't know who was going to cover the bill. She said they were all very upset. She said she couldn't believe I would do this. She said, and this is the part I keep coming back to, "You're ruining his day." Not, "I'm sorry we made you feel unwelcome." Not, "I know you've done so much, and we should have handled this differently." Just, "You're ruining his day." The day she never thought to wonder how it had been funded. The degree that had been financed, month by month, by the sister who was not welcome at the table. I put the phone down. I finished my food. I went to bed. My brother showed up at my apartment door on Tuesday evening. I almost didn't open it. I saw him through the peephole and I stood there for probably 20 seconds, just looking at the distorted fisheye image of him standing in my hallway in a gray hoodie, his hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. I opened the door. He looked up. He had his father's eyes, our father's eyes, and in that moment they looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before. He was 22 years old, and he looked young in a way that made my chest hurt despite everything. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He sat down on my couch, the same couch where I'd watched him graduate, essentially, via text in a group chat. And he looked around my apartment for a moment, like he was taking inventory. It was a small apartment. Nice enough, but small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. A kitchen that fit 2 people if they stood very close together. "I didn't know," he said finally. "I know you didn't," I said. "Mom told me Sunday night. He stopped. "After everything fell apart at the restaurant. She told me it had been you, the whole time." 4 years, I said. I wasn't saying it to be cruel. I just wanted to hear the number out loud, hear it in the room between us. 4 years, he repeated. I thought Dad told me there was a family support fund, that it was a family support fund, that it was a family thing. I didn't know it was you specifically. I should have asked more questions. I know that. I looked at him. He was fidgeting with the drawstring of his hoodie, pulling it through the channel, and then beating it back through, over and over. A thing he'd done as a kid when he was nervous. "When you said it was a family thing," I said, "on Sunday, at the restaurant." He closed his eyes briefly. "Yeah, you meant me, even if you didn't know it." He didn't answer for a while. "Then, I guess I did. I'm sorry, I didn't handle it right. I panicked, and it came out wrong and I'm sorry." Here's the thing about apologies. I've spent a long time trying to understand what makes one feel real versus what makes one feel like an attempt to restore something the person wants back. My brother looked genuinely ashamed. I believed that he was. I also knew that my dad had called me 4 times and had not left a voicemail, and that the most recent text from my mom said that the restaurant bill was still partially unresolved and she needed to know what I was planning to do about it. "What do you want?" I asked him. He looked at me. "I want my sister back." "And the payments?" He looked at his hands. "I'm not here about the payments." "Are you sure?" "Because I got a very different text from Mom this morning." He was quiet for a long moment. "She asked me to come." I agreed. "But I mean it, that's not why I'm here. I came because I've been sitting with this since Sunday and I feel terrible. I feel actually terrible about what I said, and about all of it. About not asking. About just taking it and not asking. I thought about the ski trip, the spring break photos. The parking pass he'd texted my mom was too expensive. The text she'd forwarded to me so I could add it to the next transfer. "I need you to understand something," I said. "I didn't pay for your school because I wanted anything from you. I paid for it because I wanted you to have something I didn't have. I did it because I love you." I paused. "But I am not going to sit in a parking lot and cancel 4 years of automatic payments because I'm dramatic. I did it because I looked at your face in that restaurant and I realized that somewhere in the last 4 years I had made myself invisible. On purpose. And that you had let me." He looked up. "I'm not mad at you for not knowing," I said. "I'm struggling with the part where you looked at me like I didn't belong there. Like I was an inconvenience. Because even if you didn't know about the money, I'm still your sister. I still called every month. I still sent birthday texts. I still existed." He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, less rehearsed. I know you did. And I didn't. I checked out. These last 4 years, I was in my own world and I checked out from the family, and that included you. And I can't fix that with one conversation. No, I agreed. You can't, but I'd like to try. If that's something you're open to. I looked at my brother sitting on my couch, 22 years old, holding his hoodie drawstring, looking at me the way people look at you when they're not sure yet whether they've done irreparable damage. I thought about the version of this conversation I had imagined, in the abstract, over the years, the moment where someone in my family looked at me and actually saw me. This wasn't exactly that, but it wasn't nothing. I'm open to a conversation, I said. A slow one, over time. He nodded. The payments are not coming back, I said. I want you to understand that. Not because I'm punishing you, because I've been pouring into something that I never let myself examine, and I need to stop doing that. You're 22. You graduated. You can figure out the rest. I know, he said. That's fair. You have your degree. Nobody can take that from you. Whatever comes next is yours. He left an hour later. We talked about smaller things, his plans, a job application, a city he was thinking about moving to. Normal sibling conversation, the kind we hadn't had in years. It was slightly awkward and slightly too careful, and exactly what the beginning of something repaired sounds like. My dad called me 3 weeks later, not about money. Or at least, not entirely. He called to say that the restaurant situation had been handled, that he didn't appreciate the way I'd handled it, and that he hoped going forward I would communicate differently. I let him finish. Then I said, I hope going forward, you'll think about what it means to tell your daughter she doesn't belong at her brother's graduation. I hope that's something you sit with. He didn't respond to that. He changed the subject. I let him, because some conversations aren't going to resolve in a single phone call, and I have stopped expecting them to. My mom texted me the following week. A picture of a cardinal on her back porch. She always sent me birds. It was her way of reaching without reaching. I sent back a heart. It was small. It was something. I think about that moment in the restaurant parking lot a lot. The 9 minutes. The phone in my hand. The baking show on pause somewhere back at my apartment. The valet stand visible from where I was sitting. The moment where I stopped being invisible to myself, even if I wasn't sure yet what that meant. I had spent 4 years believing that love meant making yourself small enough that the people you loved could expand without feeling crowded. I had paid for a seat at a table, and then voluntarily given it up, over and called that generosity. It wasn't generosity. It was fear. Fear that if I asked to be seen, they'd decide I wasn't worth looking at. I'm still working through that. I see a therapist every other Thursday. I've started saying no to things that cost me more than they give back. I'm learning the difference between love and performance. My brother texted me last Sunday. A meme, the stupid kind. The kind that means nothing except I thought of you. I sent one back. It's not fixed. Maybe it won't fully be. But I'm done being the person no one thought to invite. Done funding the celebration and standing outside the door. If there's a seat at the table, I'm taking it. Not because I paid for the chair, but because I was always supposed to be there. That's the thing they don't tell you about finally letting go of the invisible role you've played your whole life. It doesn't feel like relief right away. It feels like loss. Like standing in a room you've always secretly held up and watching it wobble without you. But you stay standing. You let it wobble. And you wait to see what's actually strong enough to hold itself up on its own. I've thought a lot about why I kept the payment secret for so long. And the honest answer, the one I didn't want to look at for a long time, is that I was afraid. Not of being taken advantage of. I think somewhere underneath everything, I was afraid that if I said it out loud, if I made my contribution visible, they'd look at it and still decide it wasn't enough. That I wasn't enough. Keeping it anonymous felt safer. It meant I could never be rejected directly. The money could be accepted even when I wasn't. That's not wisdom. That's a wound dressed up as generosity. What I know now is that actions have weight, whether you announce them or not. 4 years of payments didn't disappear just because I never claimed them. The consequences of those choices, mine and my brother's and my father's, were always building quietly in the background, the way debt does, the way distance does. You think you're holding things steady, and then one afternoon in a restaurant parking lot you realize the bill has come due and you're the only one who knew it was coming. My brother is not a villain. I want to be clear about that. He was 22, and he had been allowed to be careless, allowed to receive without understanding the cost, allowed to grow up in a family where looking away from difficult things was modeled as a survival skill. That's not an excuse, but it is a cause. And causes matter if you're trying to understand anything honestly. What I had to reckon with was my own part in it. I had chosen invisibility and then quietly resented the dark. I had made myself easy to overlook and then been hurt when I was overlooked. That's a pattern I learned young. Make yourself useful, make yourself small. Maybe eventually someone will notice and love you for it. It doesn't work. It has never worked. And the person it damages most is the one running the pattern. The choice I made in that parking lot, canceling the transfers, sending that email, wasn't revenge, even though it probably looked like it. It was the first honest thing I had done in 4 years. It was me finally telling the truth about what I was and wasn't willing to do. Integrity isn't just about being honest with other people. It's about being honest with yourself about what you're actually choosing and why. My brother showed up at my door. He looked tired and young and ashamed, and he said he was sorry, and I believed him. Not because sorry fixes anything, but because I could hear in his voice that he was actually sitting with what he'd done. Not scrambling to get something back, just sitting with it. That's the beginning of something real. Accountability without excuses is genuinely hard, and watching someone do it, even imperfectly, matters. I'm still learning how to take up space. How to say, I was here, I contributed, I deserve a seat. Not because of what I paid. Because I was always supposed to be there. Those are different things, and it took me a long time to understand the difference. One is transactional. The other is just true. If you're the person in your family who gives and tells yourself, it doesn't matter if anyone notices. It matters. You matter. And the moment you stop making yourself small to make someone else comfortable is not a betrayal of love. It's the beginning of it.